Welcome back to the Redraft Show, brought to you by the FFD Fantasy. And I am Chef GPT, and we're here today to get into the Week 11 waiver wire pickups, and it is thick with two C's and a capital T. So let's get into it. But first, we make sure that we do cover the hits. So, all right, post waiver stash. We told you, go pick up Kyle Williams, stash him on the bench. Mike Vrabel hit on it, said, hey. He's earned more opportunities. Now, the opportunity presented itself in the form of two targets, but he turned one of them into a 72-yard touchdown. Do with that information what you will. Mac Jones comes through for us again. Who? Mac Jones. So 33 of 39, 319 yards and 3 touchdowns. Going QB6 going into Monday Night Football. So that was your QB streamer. And we told you to go add Colston Loveland after the monster 118-yard, 2-touchdown performance. And he comes in tight end 13, 4 for 55, going into Monday Night Football. It finally appears that he is taking over for Colston Loveland. It only took 9 weeks, but that might as well have been a lifetime if you were waiting for the breakout and the Colston Loveland truther over a guy like Tyler Warren. So we're of the opinion that both could be good, but we've spent now a minute talking about what we hit on, but let's see what we can hit on this week. And we're going to start with the must-adds, the running back position being Tyler Allegier. Now, this is going to be an unpopular thing because it's really touchdown dependent, but for some reason or another, Tyler Allegier keeps taking snaps away and scoring touchdowns. He's now got a career high in touchdowns, and he's in a contract year, so it's bag season. He's 36% roster. They're taking on the Carolina Panthers, a division game, a revenge game. They got embarrassed in Charlotte earlier this year, so it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. The split moving forward. If he gets a touchdown, you'll probably be happy, but he's a part of Zach Robinson's game plan, whether we like it or not. So let's take advantage. He's 36% rostered. Let's get on that sooner than later. Then let's move on to another somewhat sad and strange situation. Emari Demarcado has worked his way out of the doghouse, and now he's 37% rostered, and he's taking on the 49ers this week. We still don't have clarity about Trey Benson and his return yet. He's not been activated off IR or the practice window open. So let's proceed as though he's not going to be activated, and then we can adjust accordingly if need be. We'll talk about Trey Benson in a second. And then there's not a ton going on the waiver wire this week, to be honest with you. But the one thing that I do want to highlight is let's go ahead. If you're like me, we're going into week 11. This is the week 11 waiver show. And you spent most of your fab on a guy like Colston Loveland to grab him because you lost Tucker Kraft. So we got to get ahead of the curve and stash some guys now, just so we're not victim to the waiver wire. Like, again, I always say there's people that know what happened, there's people that know why it happened, and there's people that ask what happened. So let's go ahead and get ahead of this curve right here and get Basil Tootin on our rosters. 26% rostered. I don't know if you guys saw that. I just spit. That's hilarious. 26% rostered. He's taking on the Chargers this week. His next 3 opponents, this is a Travis Etienne thing also, but the Chargers, the Cards, and the Titans, 3 cake matchups that we could take advantage of. And if anything happens to Travis Etienne, you've got yourself, an explosive guy. Now, I know he hasn't broken a run over 10 yards yet, and the Jacksonville Jaguars just blew a 20-point lead. So the vibes are not high in Duval right now. So, but hey, different story, different day. Let's make sure that we just stash him just in case something happens, just for a second, just to see how it feels. But we can move on to our next stash. And this is a guy who I feel like we need to talk about, but we don't have to spend too much time on it. It's Jalen Wright. He's 5% rostered. They're taking on the Commanders this week. The Commanders do not put up a fight against ground attacks at all. So this is a matchup that you can take advantage of. He's getting run now. Ollie Gordon is nursing an ankle injury, so he belongs here too somewhat. But, I mean, honestly, it's just kind of insurance in case Devon Achane, something happens to Devon Achane. Please, King, be okay. And he is. I'm just saying we've got to get ahead of it. I'm in a position now, and I know other people out there are just like me where they've shot their load as far as their waiver budget goes, and help is not on the way. So we stash instead of trading players for fab or whatever. I mean, unless you can get, some kind of good deal done. But that's a different story for a different day. Moving on, we've got D'Ernest Johnson. Darndest Johnson is what I lovingly refer to him as, because it's the darndest thing that no matter how good Travion Henderson is, somebody else on the Patriots is going to get an inside the 5 carry. So Travion Henderson is now, after that monster performance, we don't know what the status of Ramondre Stevenson is. Terrell Jennings was ruled out immediately on Sunday with a knee injury. So, you've got a potential. What you have to understand here is that, and I'm thinking as I say this, you've got to understand that Mike Vrabel is never going to hand this over to a rookie fully. So Tez Johnson, 0% rostered, taking on the Jets this week on Thursday Night Football. That could be a flex play if you're missing Jonathan Taylor or Alvin Kamara this week. I didn't mention the Colts and the Saints are going to be on bye this week. Those are the only 2 bye week teams. And then we've got Sean Tucker. Now, this is an interesting one because Sean Tucker became the first running back in 2025 to rush for more than 50 yards against the Bucs. 9 carries for 53 yards. I mean, led the Bucs in yards on, in their loss against the Patriots. Yes. We literally just talked about. See, this is where CTE comes in, and CTE and ADD just beat my ass right there in front of you guys. So anyway, we're gonna fight through it, and we're gonna fight to pick up Sean Tucker as a post waiver stash this week. He's 10% rostered. They get the Buffalo Bills, who've been giving up the yams on the ground. So let's move on. We've got Devin Neal. Devin Neal's 11% rostered. Now, this is just a pure hey, the rich can get richer potentially. I mean, his role has steadily grown. He's only 11% rostered. This is really just Alvin Kamara insurance, just in case something happens and we can be proactive. But they're on bye week this week. So you can honestly, we're going to push this out a week and we'll come back to this next week. Write that down, JC. So anyway, last but not least, this is one that I picked up literally this afternoon as I'm recording this on Monday afternoon at 3:00 in the best coast time. It's not a coast at all. It's just Central Time. What am I doing? Anyway, Keaton Mitchell, 4% rostered. Coach Harbaugh then came out and he said, hey, we got to get Keaton Mitchell more touches. So he had 4 carries for 31 yards this past week. We'll see if that actually happens, if that moves forward. It's probably not going to affect Derrick Henry, but he might steal that passing game work from Justice Hill. He's only 4% rostered, so you could do worse for a bench spot. Moving on to the wide receiver position, it's thick this week, boys. We've got Parker Washington, 56% roster, taking on the Chargers. 7 targets last week, 3 for 29 and a touchdown and a punt return touchdown. He's looking real spry out there. And I mean, he has a rapport with Trevor Lawrence. And I don't really understand the how, but we don't need to understand the how. We just need to understand the why. I think this is signal, not noise. And plus, I like when guys show a propensity to make plays on special teams and then the teams. He had 7 targets, so it's not just that. But the thing is, I think that this is signal and not noise. And somebody's got to catch passes. And Jacoby Myers is still getting up to speed. So this is something that we need to take very seriously. Check your waivers to see if he's available. I normally do 50% or less, but this is right on the cusp at 56%. So I wanted you guys to know because I think that this is important. Moving on, we got Tez Johnson. If you're new here, I told you in week 7, I believe I told you again in week 8. And if you're still here, he's only 53% rostered, but he had a monster game on Sunday, 4 catches, 42 yards, 2 touchdowns. So Baker Mayfield clearly has some sort of comfort. This offense does seem a little broken, but if they're going to target Tez Johnson, we can just take the fantasy points and we don't have to believe in the ceiling of the offense, even though it should be theoretically a really high ceiling, but the injuries have started to pile up. Baker's not playing MVP ball anymore. Whatever. Regardless of that, we need to take advantage of it.
Looking for more FFD? Sign up for Patreon and get access to our rankings, projections, ADP, an extra show every single week, and more for your pleasure.
And then we've got Jerry Jeudy. Now, Jerry Jeudy is a guy that I haven't been a fan of the situation. If we could get, I don't know, a guy like Joe Flacco in there to throw the ball to, these elite weapons in Cedric Tillman. Elite is a stretch. You're gassing a little bit, but gas away because Jerry Jeudy, 6 catches, 12 targets, 78 yards and a touchdown this past week. They take on the Ravens this week, who have given up. I mean, Jalen Naylor just had 124 yards. Of course, the game plan is probably going to be different there is no game plan for Jalen Naylor because you game plan for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison. But again, we'll get back to that here shortly. Cedric Tillman's also an interesting, you could probably post waiver stash. I mean, he came off IR with the hamstring, and when he came off IR, Dylan Gabriel's throwing passes. So unless you're absolutely desperate, like maybe they turn to Shedeur, maybe they pick up, maybe they go sign somebody off the street. I don't know. I don't think it can get much worse. Like, you got people making compilations that are just the 5 worst throws of the week, and it's just Dylan Gabriel over and over again. Do what you will with that information. But again, Jerry Jeudy, 53% rostered, 6 for 78 and a touchdown. It could be a boat. Now, we've got Kyle Williams on this list. And now the Booty Warrior is going to be out for the Patriots again, most likely. It's a Thursday night game. I don't know. You can hop in his Discord and then send me a screenshot to see what he says or whatever the case may be. But Kyle Williams scored a 72-yard touchdown on the back of, not on the back of Mike Vrabel, because that would be weird, but on the back of Mike Vrabel coming out and saying, hey, we need to get Kyle Williams has earned more opportunities. He's going to be more involved. And we've got the Booty Warrior currently out with an injury. So 6% rostered. This is, a crazy splash play. It looked like he was running in fast forward. So definitely want to get active and get him onto your roster. And then we've been waiting for this. Insert Gambit meme. Who you know how long I've been waiting for this? I'm about to make a name for myself. Anyway, bad Cajun accent aside, Luther Burden's 14% rostered against the Vikings this week. The Vikings have a propensity for giving up big plays, and Luther Burden seems to be coming into his own. He's got 136 passer rating when targeted. So, Ole, you've got the injury to DJ Moore, who finished with 0 catches, 0 yards on 4 targets this week. He did enter the game again, but I'll be interested to see how this shakes out. And Olamide Zaccheaus was just not great. So you got Luther Burden. I think he's a superstar in the making. If you know anything about Luther Burden, you know that like once the ball is in his hands, you're at his mercy. But yes, 14% rostered versus the Vikings this week. So it's a great matchup. We've got injuries ahead of him. I know we've talked about a bunch of Bears players, but man, just stick with me on this. This is very interesting. So then furthermore, we've got, look, I'm getting so excited. You can see the sweat. Look at that. It's getting sweaty in here because I told you to start sweaty Darius Slayton. Darius Slayton comes out, makes an amazing catch, an OBJ-like catch. Knock my phone off my desk. And Darius Slayton's 51% roster. They're going to take on the Packers next week. He's wide receiver 25 heading to Monday Night Football, and that's 2 top 36 finishes in a row for Darius Slayton. So you could do much worse this week if you're going to be without all the Colts receivers and Chris Olave this week. And then for your post waiver stashes, we've got Jaden Higgins, 17% roster, taking on the Tennessee Titans. Traylon Burks, that is an absolute hero call, desperation play. But hopefully get well soon, King. We're rooting for you. Pat Bryant, 4% rostered. He's up to 30%. He played 30 of 51 snaps versus the Raiders this past week. So just a post waiver stash to keep your eye on. And then Jalen Naylor, last but not least, 3% rostered, taking on the Bears this week. Coming off a 6 target, 5 for 124 in a touchdown game. So let's move on to the tight ends real quick. And I'm not a huge fan of the devious Dalton Schultz, but we can't ignore 11 targets, 7 for 53 and a touchdown. They're taking on the Titans this week. I mean, it's just, hey, to quote Rocco from over at Fourth and Fantasy, you start everybody against them damn Tennessee titties. Do with that information what you will. Moving on, we've got Cade Otton, 12 targets, 9 for 82, taking on the Buffalo Bills this week, who notoriously play a ton of too high middle of the field open. That's usually good for tight ends. And Cade Otton has just been good for your fantasy lineup. With no Chris Godwin, no Mike Evans. He's earning targets in this offense, and we can't ignore that. Then we've got Theo Johnson, Big Theo, coming out, taking on the Green Bay Packers, 31% rostered, 8 targets, 7 catches for 75 yards this past week. That's a career high in catches. Now we do need to monitor Jackson Dart. I mean, he's been evaluated for a concussion for the 4th time, but people are making a big deal about this. I mean, he got concussed, so we need to check that out, make sure that he's going to be able to progress through the protocol, because if it's Moonball Russ, just ignore this and wait for a week or don't start him. against the Green Bay Packers this coming week. Just, but we can work through that. And then the post waiver stash makes me sad because Dalton Kincaid injured his hamstring. So I'm going to recommend that if you are desperate at the tight end position, if you've done something like rostered Tucker Kraft and then picked up a Rondé Gadsden and then you missed out on Colston Loveland and now Tyler Warren's on bye week, you might be able to play Dawson Knox. That's about as much enthusiasm as I can drum up for that, to be honest with you. And then maybe, just maybe, we could play Brenton Strange. Now, this is just more so a stash. We're going to check. We're going to follow the practice reports. If you want to, stay on top of that, you can follow me over on Twitter X, and we'll be watching that like a hawk this week to see if Mr. Brenton Strange is going to be activated off of IR. But I mean, it's been about 5 weeks. That was the timeline for the hip injury that he suffered. So keep an eye on that. Also, forgot to mention Trey Benson, 63% rostered. Likely he's on someone's IR spot, but if you don't have IR spots, there's a chance that he's out there on waivers, hence the 63% rostership. So make sure you check that out. And then before we get out of here, look, we've got QB streamers. It's ugly, but it could be worse. So if you've lost Indiana Jones for the week, or for some reason you're starting Tyler Shuck, hey, let's go ahead and pivot to Tua Tagovailoa versus the Commanders this week. 21% rostered, taking on the Commanders over in Madrid, Spain. We got another morning kickoff, final 8:30 a.m. Kickoff for the NFL season. And this is a great matchup. Everything's green against the Commanders. I don't like that defense is just an absolute sieve to both the run and the pass. So everybody is wheels up. Devon Achane's probably going to be my RB1 on the week, but we'll tap into that once we get to the start sit show for the running backs. And then we got JJ McCarthy or 9 or whichever guy shows up. He did light up the Bears for 3 touchdowns, the first in week 1 when they played. But I mean, you guys have seen all the memes going around, so I don't need to spend too much time there. But he's 42% rostered. He gets the Bears. This could be, with the combination of his legs and then, the squeaky wheel game that seems to be incoming for Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, you could do much worse this week if you needed a desperation stream. And then last but not least, real nasty work. We're talking about Jacoby Brissett coming off a shaky performance against a game Seahawks defense. Well, the 49ers are much less game because they don't really have any of their superstars left on the defensive side of the ball. They just gave up 42 points to the Rams, who are an explosive offense. The Cardinals are not the Rams, but this is a great spot to be able to play you some Jacoby Brissett. Now, look, if you made it this far, please leave a 5-star review on the podcast side. Download, comment, subscribe on the Twitter X and YouTube. Make sure that you're being active. These are more so like you don't have to pick these guys up. If it makes sense, okay, it makes sense. You can get these guys on your roster, stash them. Again, the post waiver stashes are for people who blew all their fab like me and need to be able to get ahead of the waiver wire so that you're not, just hoping against hope that everybody's asleep. The other 11 or however many people are in your league are asleep. So, with that being said, if you want to do anything to support, the old Chev GPT, go download the League Champ app. We're giving away a jersey every single week for the most accurate ranker. And if you want to talk to me or something like that, just go leave us, subscribe on the YouTube, go join our Discord, for free or a $5 holler. And, yeah, that's pretty much it. I've got a line of Quantum Machevis with everything else that I'm working on. And it's a little bit longer episode because I felt like we needed to discuss a few more players, but we've gotten to the end. And as I always leave you, there's ball watchers and ball knowers. Assign yourselves accordingly. I'll see you on the Running Back Show.